We are so excited that you're here to attend Airbnb Legends, sponsored by ATB and put on by Central Alberta Real Estate Investor Network. My name's Andrew Rocha. I am a branch manager for ATB Financial, as well as I also do real estate investing. And I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Bryce Kander, who created this whole Central Alberta Real Estate Investor Network. So big hand for Bryce. So, Bryce, what should we actually be expecting from tonight?
Tonight, you're going to learn how to start an Airbnb, and if you already have one, you're going to learn how to scale your Airbnb. So my wife and I, we just did a suite in our basement. Our housing expense is $2,500, and in the first month, we've done $2,500.
That's incredible. Like, those are really solid numbers for anyone that doesn't know math. That's a good number. But I've also been watching your videos, and if you aren't on social media, or if you are, I should say, you should check out Bryce. He has some great insights, great tips. But one of your latest videos, you were talking about on a short-term rental, you had one listing that went for $15,000, one booking.
It was a 10-month booking, and we're actually, if it was long-term rent versus short-term rent, we're making $5,000 more compared to long-term rent.
That is incredible. Okay, so we're gonna have lots of fun of just learning all these different tips and tricks. We have 3 Airbnb legends, and normally we would ramble on a little bit more, but they have far greater, more exciting things to talk about than we do. But I know one of the exciting parts is ATB is actually one of the very few banks that actually allows you to use short-term rental income. So if you have any questions about what that looks like, we have a few people from ATB here in the audience that would be happy to either answer some questions or point you in the right direction of how you can use your short-term rental income to actually qualify for more mortgages, which most banks don't do. But with all that said, Bryce, who's actually our first guest that we're bringing up to the stage?
So we have Carlos coming up first. He's a man of simple tastes. He likes caviar, Persian rugs, the sound of platinum coins clinking together. So he's actually a father of currently 4, and he manages a small real estate portfolio, and he owns a fitness gym. He makes custom lighting and custom furniture for his Airbnbs, which is crazy. He actually manages the largest house in Edmonton on Airbnb, and since 2021, he's a superhost, obviously, and since 2001, he has been the area leader for Airbnb in Edmonton and Northern Alberta. So welcome up, Carlos.
You know, I wasn't expecting him to actually read that intro. I sent it to him as a joke, and he's got more guts than I do. So thanks so much for letting me come up here. My name is Carlos Llano-Lunas. I am the Edmonton and Northern Alberta Airbnb community leader. Just so I can get to know you guys, it's really weird. I'm used to going to the Edmonton meetups where I know like half the faces there. I hardly know anyone here. It's really nice. It's really refreshing. Just out of curiosity, who owns property in Central Alberta? Awesome. Who has that property on Airbnb? Okay. Who's thinking about putting that property on Airbnb? Who's thinking about even just getting property? Awesome. Well, a little bit about myself really quick. I'm going to jump into it. I started real estate investing back in 2016. I've done a few different strategies. The main ones I typically do are buy and holds, and then as well, BRRRRs, and a couple little things. I kind of stay away from the fix and flip thing. To me, it's a little bit too risky. In 2018, though, I got started in Airbnbs. So my wife and I run the portfolio together. It's a super automatable business, so I've been blessed that I've been able to even continue working my full-time job, which I love. And over the last few years, I have had over 1,000 stays. In Edmonton, it's been a little different over the years. We've had to deal with a lot of change. For those of you who don't know, before COVID, Airbnb was the big boogeyman. Regulations were coming in. And so myself and 2 other people were members of what we called the Edmonton Short-Term Rental Association back then. And we directly consulted with city administration to write the bylaws for Edmonton. And because of that, Edmonton now has the best bylaws in Canada. It's super easy. Thank you. It's super easy to get a short-term rental license in Edmonton. Edmonton has enough teeth to get rid of bad hosts, and we're grateful for that. So as there's been a lot of turbulence throughout different provinces, I'm grateful to say that Edmonton is a fantastic place to invest, and pretty much all of Alberta is a fantastic place to invest for short-term rentals. This is a picture of me and my wife when we bought our first real estate property back in 2016. Just a little tiny bungalow, $215,000. I'm a real estate investor first. I want to emphasize that today. I don't do Airbnb because I want to be an Airbnb host. I do it because it creates the greatest amount of cash flow and returns for that very properties that I buy. That other picture on the other side is a $1.5 million property that we're looking to purchase. Right now, we're in negotiations. It is a fantastic property. We'll talk more about that in a little bit later. But I want to tell you guys all, everything I talk about today is going to be about how to make your investment perform even better. So I got into Airbnb because I'm a mama's boy. Back in 2018, the rental market in Edmonton sucked. She had a 2-bedroom condo. Rent rates were about $1,100, $1,200 a month, but her expenses were $1,800 a month, so she was hemorrhaging a lot of cash. So I had heard about this Airbnb thing, and I just thought, hey, Mom, why don't we grab some furniture, throw it in there, and see how it goes? Worst case scenario, you just go bankrupt a little faster than you were before. We spent, I think, $8,000, glammed the place up, and we're literally the first month we started pulling in $2,500 a month, with some months pulling in $3,500 a month. So my mom was happy, we were happy, and it was when that first guest walked in. We literally, last minute scramble, like making sure all the plates are there, putting the toilet paper in the racks, getting the towels in. 5 minutes before the guest comes, we're all panicked, trying to get everything ready. I literally hand the keys to the guest, pretending that this was the plan all along. He walks in and I hear him say, "Yeah, this is way better than a hotel." So I caught the bug. From then, we proceeded to flip over all of our portfolio to Airbnbs. These are a few of our favorite ones, including this one over here is the biggest one in Edmonton. It's an 8-bedroom house. This is one of my favorite ones. It's a crystal and gemstone themed Airbnb. We thought, hey, our best market is Gen X and boomer wives. They're the ones who make the decision for where they stay when they go on vacation, so we want to appeal to them. And then we remembered crystals was really cool back in those guys' days, so we made a crystal-themed Airbnb, and it performs like crazy. And however, we eventually ran out of our own properties. So since I was an owner-operator, I looked at the other 2 Airbnb strategies. The first one being rental arbitrage. For those of you who don't know, essentially all you're doing is you're renting a property from somebody else and throwing it on Airbnb. Typically, you want to make sure you have a good spread when you do this. You don't want to lose money on a lease agreement. But that's a great way to expand your portfolio quickly. The other one is co-hosting, which is Airbnb property management. So that's where you manage it for other people. Typically, co-hosts, they charge anywhere from 15 to 40%, and it's all the Wild West. There's no regulations in Alberta. There's no governing body when it comes to co-hosting. However, typically, if you're only charging 15%, you're also throwing additional fees for all the extra stuff. If you're charging 40%, you're doing almost everything in-house. So it varies on the strategies. So we tried them all. This is one of the buildings where we picked up 12 units. Fantastic place, but over time, we realized a problem with rental arbitrage. Fast forward, it's been 4 years. The furniture's starting to get beat up. Rents are going up. Airbnb rates aren't going up as fast as rents are. And we've realized all we really have is a bunch of furniture, but no underlying asset. So the cash flow has been great, don't get me wrong. Especially when we started, we were making $1,000 a month cash flow on these studio apartments. It was amazing. However, we decided that we would really look at real estate investing. And for those of you who are a little bit more unfamiliar with real estate investing is really 2 things. You're buying an asset and you're buying a business. The asset is the land. That's it. You're buying that land and you're hoping that 5, 10, 15 years down the road, somebody will pay more for it. Unless you're gonna get mineral rights and rip the minerals out, there's not much you can do with the land outside of that. That's where the business portion comes in. In real estate, when you're trying to make money on that land, all you're doing is selling time. You're selling time on that land. If you have just straight up farmland, I've got farmland out by St. Paul there. I typically get about $3,000 a year for it. Easy money. The land doesn't need any maintenance. My property taxes are like $100. However, $3,000 a year If I had to get a mortgage on that land, won't pay for much of it. I put a house on it now. Well, now I can charge $3,000 a month. So now that's a lot more money coming in for the same amount of time on that land, but the time is now more valuable. One of the challenges, though, is that the only way to really expand that part out is by getting more and more units. So if I put an apartment building on there, I might get 100 units on there for $1,000 a month. I get to sell even more time. So because of that, when it comes to long-term rental and short-term rental, this is the way I like to talk about it. Everyone is familiar with wholesaling and retail, right? Wholesaling, you're calling up some manufacturer in China, saying, I want 1,000 shirts. You get them for $1. You turn around and sell them to a business for $2, and you keep the spread. Really easy. All you're doing is you're just trying to get as cheap as possible the rates for how much you're paying for them, and selling as many as you can to as many people as you can. Retail, though, is different. You're buying that shirt from the wholesaler for $2, but then you're turning around and selling it for $50. So you're making a way bigger spread. Because of that, there is more cost, though. You need sales reps, you need a store, you need to hang those shirts on racks, you have to have a catalog, maybe an Amazon store. There's way more work involved. However, your profit margins are way, way bigger. This is the same when it comes to long-term and short-term rentals. Long-term rentals, you're selling time on that property at 1-year intervals. You're selling them to somebody who's going to live in the property, that they're going to find value on it, but it's also really easy. You sell it, and you don't really have to do anything until something goes wrong. Short-term rentals is a lot more involved. You need to have cleaners, you need to be constantly answering messages, but you get to have more of a spread on that same property. So that's how I look at it when it comes to long-term and short-term rentals. So the question I asked myself when I realized that for us, rental arbitrage wasn't going to work out was, what is the best land I can buy with the highest revenue potential? And after a little bit of thought, we came to land banking. Who here has ever done land banking? Who here knows what land banking is? All land banking is you're buying a piece of property, typically at agricultural rates outside the city, where you're planning on the city growing to in the next 10 to 15 years. How much is the city? I'm not familiar with Red Deer numbers. How much would a piece of land just like right over there, if I had a giant quarter section, be worth? Bryce? $3 to $5 million. What if I went, I don't know, 10 miles further out? $1 million bucks. 10 miles after that? $895. The closer you are to the city, the more the land is worth. In Edmonton, quarter sections outside Sherwood Park are going for $20 million. People who bought that land bought it 30 years ago. The problem with land banking is that it's very cash intensive. You typically have a hard time getting lending. ATB is one of the few banks that'll lend with a 30% down payment. The interest rates are very expensive, and there's not a lot you can do with the land to generate revenue. Once again, you're going to Joe Farmer and asking for $3,000 a year. However, with short-term rentals, there's a nice little way where we can actually start making a ton of money from this. Glamping. Who here has ever heard of glamping? Who here's gone glamping? So all glamping is glamorous camping, a fancy name. You grab a dome tent or a yurt or an astrovan, a fire tower, something that's, what people will typically want to go stay in, figure out what the market wants. These things cost anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000. You put it on your piece of land, and all of a sudden you can charge $300, $500, even $1,000 a night for a tent. How much are you renting one-bedroom apartments in Red Deer for? $150 a month? $1,400 a month. You can get that same rate with a night with a tent. Now imagine if, for example, you bought that piece of land and then you threw 50 of these on there. All of a sudden, the land banking thing is going to be a little bit more profitable. There is a catch, however. One of the reasons why short-term rentals were able to pierce into the market so well was because short-term rentals didn't fit into most cities and counties' zoning regulations. It was a new thing. It didn't really fit anywhere. Cities had to figure things out. They had to put new bylaws in. When it comes to glamping, though, that's old hat for them. They call that a campground. So there are different zoning requirements. There are different counties. I'm not super familiar with the counties around here, but if you go up to Edmonton, Sturgeon County, Strathcona County, good luck. They're gonna be really, really difficult to allow this. You're gonna have a lot of hoops to jump into. Parkland County, Leduc County, they will roll out the red carpet for you and ask you, when are you gonna invest and what can we do to make this easier for you? So there is a little bit difference when it comes to glamping, and that's why the glamping market hasn't shot up, because there's a lot more rules required. The raw land's gonna be expensive. You go to ATB, you can get the best mortgage you can get, but it's still gonna cost you a lot. So it's very, very cash intensive. So the deal I'm working on right now is for this property here. Beautiful property, a little bit dated, but absolutely gorgeous. Has its own indoor swimming pool, everything like that. And this is just what I'm doing, guys. I'm gonna share this with you. I'll tell you right now, if any of you guys are looking to invest in this project, you need to be an accredited investor or we need to be best friends. You can go talk to my partner, Jennifer Lee, if you're more curious about that. So I'll just tell you that right off the hop. Awesome property. The problem with this property is that it had a survey issue where this half of the property is on Crown land. So it creates some complications. Number one, ATB won't give us money. There's a title conflict. And you pretty much have to buy this property all cash. And the process to get Crown land is doable. There is a process for it. The federal government's already said they'll do it, but the entire process takes about 8 to 10 years. They're 4 years into it, so we're about halfway there. So right now we're looking to buy the property for $1.5 million. But the nice thing is once this area is resolved, once we buy that, I don't know, what is it, 600 square feet, the property will now be worth $4 to $5 million. And ATB will be happy to give us all the money that we want on it. So we have that opportunity there. So we have this property here we're looking to pick up. Then we want to make money from this property. So we have 3 phases for our plan, our secret diabolical plan. Number 1 is the lodge itself. We need to renovate it, upgrade it, turn it into the ultimate Airbnb experience. It's going to cost about $200,000. The place has been kept in fantastic condition. It just really needs more cosmetic. Furnishing the lodge will probably cost about $50,000. And then our expected income on the conservative end is $120,000 a year. I know that number because I have the highest performing property in Edmonton and it is the best comparable I can use. So I have the internal data on that. However, Jennifer is one of the best event organizers in Edmonton. And there's one group that really, really likes to spend a lot of money when it comes to where they're going for their events. And that is the bride. The bride wants to get the best wedding event. In wedding events, they're willing to pay anywhere from $1,000 a day to $10,000 a day, depending on what you're doing. So we're gonna take that same land and we wanna increase the value as much as possible. So that's the first thing we're gonna do. Likewise as well, there's other groups we can target market. One of my favorite groups, especially for weddings, is Indians. You guys have the best weddings ever. They're a week long. You don't care about the price. You throw the money in there. So there's tons of little markets that are so underserved in this area that we can target that we're gonna go for. And then likewise, in the county that it's in, we're allowed 3 glamping sites without any permits. Seeing as permits are gonna be the hard part for us, it's gonna cost us about $25,000 each to put these units in. And the expected income conservative would be about $3,000 a month per unit. So in total, we're expecting to have an income of $220,000 a year on the conservative side. If Jennifer does amazing marketing, anywhere from $500,000 to $1.2 million a year. And that's the income on a property that I can't even get a loan from the bank on. However, we're not done. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make a road. It'll actually be black, not white, but you know. And each one of these little lines is gonna represent a potential another glamping site that we're gonna put into there. When I have 50 to 200 glamping sites, that's when we start hitting the big money. That's when we start hitting the revenue. And we're gonna do something a little bit more intense. We're gonna supply power, water, sewer, and heating to each of these glamping sites. Because of that, our expected cost per site will be anywhere from $60,000 to $100,000. Obviously, a dome tent isn't gonna be very expensive, but when we build that dream fire tower that I'm thinking of doing, that's gonna be a lot more expensive. And so our expected revenue per year on the conservative side, if we can only get 50 units from Parkland, will be $1.8 million a year. Expected revenue, if we get our dream 200 unit idea, will be $7.2 million a year. Who here could probably bank 20 years on that land at $7 million a year? However, we're not done because we have to have our exit strategy, right? If I have a bunch of units with a road in the middle, power, water, septic, heating going to each one of these stalls, each stall is about an acre large, what do you think would be a great exit strategy? Subdivide. Subdivide that land out. I've already got the utilities. I've paid for the most expensive part of land banking and the exit strategy. I've created my own subdivisions already. So I'm just selling off lots, 1 acre lots. How much would a 1 acre lot close to the city go for? $300,000 to $400,000. Times that by 50 or 200, that's exit strategy, part 1. Part 2, that lodge, Nordic Spa. Right beside a new subdivision, there's gonna be a beautiful Nordic Spa. So, I don't tell you guys this because I want to brag about this idea. It's just an idea I came up with. But to show you guys what's possible when you use short-term rentals to accelerate your returns in real estate investing. Most of you here have real estate. Not all of them are going to be good for short-term rentals. However, short-term rentals does open the doors for properties that can't even get mortgages on them to be able to not only cash flow, but also to provide that income for yourself now and in the future. So my name's Carlos. It's great. Thank you so much for the time. If Bryce really wanted me to give you guys something, and I don't really have a courses to sell or anything like that. This past spring, though, I did Edmonton's first Airbnb boot camp where I taught all the secret sauces, everything about my business. I went through Edmonton neighborhood by neighborhood, talking about the different neighborhoods, what's profitable, what's not. So I do have a 75% off coupon there. If you scan that, you can access it. If you need to get to it later, the coupon code is Bryce, and that's everything.
Thank you very much, Carlos. So yeah, make sure that you take a picture of this. I'll stand beside it so you get a picture of me as well. And perfect. Okay. Thank you very much. But that was incredible. I love when people are dreamers, but also doers. Because I think it's so easy for us to get caught up in a dream of, oh, what if and what could be. But to actually put the pedal to the metal, actually do the work, what you're doing, Carlos, is really incredible. So thank you for sharing all the behind the scenes by that. Our next speaker is Braden Scriven. He's the CEO of 𝐁𝐫𝐚𝐽𝑒𝑑x, a leading property management company specializing in short-term rentals. Using platforms like Airbnb, Braden has successfully scaled 𝐁𝐫𝐚𝐽𝑒𝑑x to generate over $5 million in annual revenue in less than 5 years, which is a great accomplishment. He's also the co-founder of Valley Capital, a real estate investment company with deep expertise in vacation rentals and turnkey investment properties in Alberta. Give it up for Braden.
Thanks, guys. Can we get another round of applause for Carlos as well? Thank you. The glamping play is huge. It's probably the biggest play in Airbnb right now. And if you guys are looking to get into real estate investment, looking either invest in a glamp ground that's going up or build one your own, as long as you can get the land, it's a huge, huge, huge investment. It's a huge play. So my story's a little bit different than, yeah, there we go. My story's a little bit different than these guys. I'm actually the only one that is from Red Deer. So I got my start right here working at 𝐁𝐫𝐚𝐲𝐝 I was just a car sales guy. Yeah, anybody here buy a vehicle from 𝐁𝐫𝐽𝐲𝐝? Anybody? Yeah? Let's over there. All right. So I had a little bit of money saved up in December of 2019, and but a few months prior, October 2019, I went to a music festival down in Austin, Texas, and I paid an insulting amount of money for an Airbnb there. Like way too much money. We paid about $1,000 a night for a 2-bedroom because there was nowhere else to stay. We were forced to just take what we can get. We crammed about 12 guys in this 2-bedroom 2-bedroom apartment. That we had no other options. And I just wanted to be on the other end of that. I was tired of working a job, so I tested the market. I went to Sylvan. I wanted to test this idea before I just drove down to Austin and get these Airbnb properties. So I started a property in Sylvan, right downtown. There's a few people that were willing to trust me to rent their properties and sublease them as short-term rentals. So we actually got started with Airbnb arbitrage, and it was great. We spent a little bit of money furnishing these properties. After a few months, we proved the method, it worked, and then I drove all the way down to Texas. I had nowhere to stay in Austin, but I knew somebody that lived 3 hours away. So I would spend all week, Monday through Friday, I would be calling landlords to see if I can book an appointment. I wasn't telling them that my intention was to short-term rent it, because I knew as soon as I told them that I was going to short-term rent it, they'd just hang up on me. So I would call, book as many appointments as possible. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I would rent a car, and then I would go to all these appointments, and for like a month, 2 months, I just went to appointments and just got shit on, got destroyed, got eaten alive down there. And finally, we had one developer say yes, and he actually owned a lot of buildings. So he's like, yeah, whatever, take as many units as you want, but I only had so much money. And so I spent every single dollar that I had on these properties, and then cool, we have enough running, I just got to manage them now, and then COVID hit. I spent all my money, and then all of our bookings got completely cleared out. Everything got taken away from us, stripped from us, gone. And I was like, I spent all my money. I'm already sleeping on my buddy's couch. So I live 3 hours away from all of these properties. So I was forced to come back up to Canada. And I was like, well, I'm used to spending 8 hours a day on the phone. So I used that time, and I just started cold calling different people. There was a lot of traveling nurses that were coming in for COVID because hospitals were understaffed. There was a lot of students that were kicked. They were just straight kicked out of their dorms. So they needed a place to stay. So I did whatever I could to fill these properties, and it worked. We started making money again, which is great. And we went back to Sylvan, back to the drawing board, and started making money there, little by little. And then a few of the landlords, I was out of money, but we were just getting by. A few of the landlords that we were renting from realized how much money we were making on their properties, and they're like, hey, actually, I was afraid that they weren't going to renew the lease. So they're like, instead of you renting this property from us, why don't we renovate the property? Why don't we take it back over and you just manage for us? And I was like, great, I want to scale, but I don't have any more money to keep buying furniture. I can't keep buying chairs and mattresses and blankets for all these properties. So yeah, sure, you front the bill on the furniture, we'll manage it. So now we're about a dozen properties in, and now we call ourselves a management company. So through that, because we're making people good money, we just started getting our name out there. People, we didn't market ourselves at all. All of our properties were through word of mouth. We just kept building, and because we were making people good money, they would tell their friends. Interest rates were super low. We were in a very lucky period. So we were growing, and we were willing to just pick up wherever. We were building every single thing on grit, and then by the end of 2022, we were in over 16 markets, and our Airbnb rep calls us and he says, hey, Braden, you guys are the biggest operators by revenue. You guys are doing the most revenue in all of Alberta. So that was our moment. So then but that's not it. I was like, great, that's amazing. It felt really good. But then I was like, hey, there's no money in our bank account. Like we're doing $5 million a year in revenue, but we're not keeping any of it. So what's going on? So I'm going to teach you guys, one, how we went from 0 to 100 properties, how we became Alberta's biggest Airbnb operator, what we did wrong, and how we fixed it, and how we're actually making money now. So the first thing to do is scale. The first thing you got to do, and a lot of this stuff is going to apply to all businesses. This isn't just Airbnb. The first thing you got to do is have a no-brainer offer. So our offer was that we'll take your property over. Any properties that we would give people, we would actually pick properties out for investors to buy. Any of the properties that we would pick out would make 2.5 to 3 times more than they would as a long-term rental. So now when we manage them, we can actually make you so much more money that after we take our cut, you're left with more money than had you managed it yourself. And it's simple economics, like it's business at scale. There's actually certain, if you want to list, you can list your property on Vrbo and they'll push you to Expedia, but you actually have to have a handful of properties before you can have a direct integration with Expedia. You have to have at least 50 properties before Airbnb will give you an account manager. So there's a lot of things that you can benefit from just having the systems at scale. The amount of by having our own marketing guy, we can list on over 40 different channels. So our distribution is huge. We're not just listing on Airbnb, we're listing everywhere. If you only had one property, you'd never be able to keep up with that. So the systems at scale was why we were able to make so much more money than somebody just managing themselves that it actually paid for our own cut. So that's step number one, just having a no-brainer offer for somebody. And then the next thing was leverage. So how did we scale? Do you guys know what the 4 types of leverage are? Can anybody put your hands up if you can name a type of leverage? What can you leverage? Money? Capital? Okay, yeah, that's one. Anything? Assets? Yeah, I mean, you can't in a way. Yeah, that's not what I'm looking for. You can measure capital. Sorry? Type? Time, you can. So you can measure, you can leverage yourself, trading time for money. That's 2 of them, yeah. Anybody else? People, yeah, that's 3. Cool. Who said that? People? Yeah, good answer. Okay. And 4, this one's systems, yeah, boom, okay. Yourself, systems, people, and capital. So systems would be technology. We said people. Yourself, that'd be time. So you guys got it. So the first thing you do when you have absolutely nothing, when you're starting from scratch, you have no capital, you can't hire people, you can't build systems, because even systems, even tech costs a little bit of money, and you have no capital to recycle your process. All you have to leverage is yourself. So you're trading your time for money. That's you trading your time for money. Okay. So that's where I did. I managed everything myself until we were at about 30 properties. At about 30 properties, I was going absolutely insane and I needed to hire somebody, but I ran into a big problem. I had no time to actually hire somebody. I had no time to train somebody, and I was going crazy. So the first lesson I learned was scale ahead of your growth. Before you need to, and I've kicked myself in the ass a few times. I've learned this lesson a couple times. I keep forgetting. Like even recently, I needed to hire an executive assistant to manage my calendar, manage my inboxes, but I didn't have the time to actually train an executive assistant. I didn't have the time to go through the hiring process of finding one. So always, if you're trying to grow quickly, scale ahead of your growth. It will cut into your profits, but if you're trying to, you have to decide it, whether you're trying to grow or whether you're trying to make money, because it's really, really hard to do both at the same time, and we'll go over that in a bit. The second thing you can leverage is systems. I don't know if anybody's managing more than 3 properties right now, but this is literally our tech stack. This is every single software that we use right here. So theoretically, in theory, in our business, you can actually automate absolutely everything, theoretically. So if you were to go to bed at, say, 11 p.m. and you have a last-minute booking at 11:30, they check in that night, they'll get sent their door lock, they'll be able to check into the property, the clean will be scheduled, they'll check out, cleaners will show up, turn the property over to the next guest, and that'll all happen before you wake up the next day. That can all happen. So you can set up the systems, but you just need to be there in case anything breaks, in case any of your systems fail, in case the guests cannot read a door code. So, yeah. The next thing, you have only so much time in a day. The next thing you have to do is duplicate yourself. So if you hire individuals, you will grow by ones, but if you hire leaders, you will grow by multiples. So we have a very, very, very careful and methodical process to hiring people. So we don't necessarily have a hiring mentality, we have a recruiting mentality. So for every single person that's joined our team, I would say on average, I'm chasing them for 3 to 4 months before they come on with us. I am sifting out somebody. We hire 50% based on culture, because culture is the most important for us. About 20% on experience, and then the rest is just like, whatever, who cares? That's like how much we need to pay them, logistics, where they live, yada yada. But the most important thing is culture. And this is one of our guys. For every single person that we hire, they're on with us for a very, very long time. So I chased this guy. He actually lives in Red Deer now. I chased him for probably about 4 months, and this is him finally accepting our job offer. Okay. So the next thing you can leverage is capital. So 90%, I would say about 90% of our excess profits, because we're a management company, it's not very capital intensive, actually. So the capital is on the owners. So 90% of our excess profits goes into our real estate fund, which is Valley Capital. So we actually own about 1/3 of our properties. We want to keep buying more and more properties, because at the end of the day, so 𝐁𝐫𝐚𝐽𝐻 throws all of our excess profits into Valley Capital. We're just an investor just like anybody else, so we get a 10% return. And then by managing the fund, we get about another 12 to 15% return on the property. And then because we manage the property, 𝐁𝐫𝐚𝐽𝐻 manages the property, then we get another 20% return on the money. And then because we also run the cleaning company, so every single dollar that we put into our real estate fund, all of our excess profits get recycled like 4 or 5 times. We're triple, quadruple dipping. Okay? So this is probably the second most important thing when it comes to scale. And I could probably find a better name for this, but I'm just gonna call it working your way down the numbers, okay? So how many people here have worked out before? Yeah, okay, decent amount of people. Have you, it's really, really, really hard to burn fat and build muscle at the same time. It's very, very hard. So you can do it for sure, but there's a reason why they have bulking periods and they have cutting periods. So in order to build muscle, you need to eat calories. And calories are kind of like your expenses. It costs money to grow, and it costs calories to build muscle. So you can do it at the same time, but you should really, 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 really separate it. So the first thing you could do is you need to build, I just grabbed this financial statement off of Google, by the way. Stage 1, you just do whatever you can. Do whatever it takes to build your revenue. If you're brand new, Airbnb anything you can. Your buddy has a closet, Airbnb it. Just whatever it takes, just build. So at any expense, worry about cutting things later. It's bulk season, baby. Like we're just bulking up, okay? And the next thing you're gonna do is you're going to work on your gross profit. So your income, your gross revenue is kind of like, that's how much money, it means nothing other than a vanity metric. Like Airbnb called us, said, hey, you're the biggest operator in Alberta, but we had no money. It meant literally nothing. So after you're done catching all of the properties, this is your gross revenue. So the reason why we had no money was because there's 200 hands in our pocket. So we had to pay, the majority of that money is actually going to the property owners. They're going to the investors. And the majority of the money that is going to the investors are actually just going to the bank. So yeah, as a property manager, we make a little cut, but then we have expenses too. We got to hire, like those leaders, those people that you hire, they cost a lot of money. All those systems our tech stack alone probably costs us $100,000 a year. So it's quite expensive. So the cleaners cost a lot of money. So, but the gross revenue, it is a very, very important metric because it will tell you exactly how much money is out there to grab. So build that top line. And then the next step is seeing how much of that money you can actually put in your pocket. So first, we became a property manager, and then next, we're like, okay, well, instead of paying these cleaning companies outrageous amounts of money, we'll become the cleaners. And then it's like, okay, well, the majority of the money is going to the property owner, so let's start buying properties. We also opened our own entire design firm. You could even go as granular, like it is probably best to find revenue streams within your portfolio that you like. So if you're a construction guy, open up a renovation company. If you like interior design, open up an interior design studio. I have somebody that she really, really likes coffee. Make your own coffee company. Start putting that in your Airbnbs. So there's a million ways to make money, and the houses are just a vehicle to be able to get there. So make as many revenue streams as you can. Try to capture as much of that gross revenue and put it into your pocket. Step 3, after you've done all that and you have the economies of scale, cut your expenses. So this is where we're at right now. So we've spent the last year and a half just cutting our expenses, but we have been able to do things that we'd never be able to imagine to do before. We would have just been wasting our time had we been negotiating with all of our vendors when we only had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 properties. We negotiated with Stripe. So Stripe takes all of our payments outside of Airbnb, and our price on Stripe was 2.9%. We negotiated them down to 2.5%, and that saved us over $50,000 a year. And that was one vendor that we negotiated with, one out of 40 vendors. So because we have so much buying power now, we'll be able to actually negotiate those economies of scale. We'll be able to get better deals everywhere. And because of all these, one move isn't gonna do much, but over 50, 60 moves, now we have all of our money back. Now we're making really, really good money. So now that we have all that money, we can spend it on drinks tonight. So if you guys want, I'm done here, but if you guys want, we are gonna go to Earl's afterwards, and you can spend some of that hard-earned money.
Thank you, Braden. That was awesome. Thank you, Braden, so much for sharing all that. It's actually funny, as Braden was talking, I realized that him and I are connected, and he has no clue how we're actually connected. So a few years back, I was sitting on the municipal planning committee for the town of Sylvan Lake, and I was seeing all these Airbnbs come up, and I saw this little Yeti logo on so many of these Airbnbs. I'm like, there is some sort of business model here, what's going on? So I started studying all of their Airbnbs, and I came up with a business proposal for the town of Sylvan Lake to change how they were doing Airbnbs. And then while that was going on, I went and bought a property that I knew that wasn't technically allowed to be an Airbnb, but as soon as this law changed, I'd be able to turn it into an Airbnb, flip it, and make a huge profit on it. So Braden, you made me a lot of money without even realizing it. Thank you very much. But our next guest, I feel like it deserves a WWE style intro as we're in Airbnb legends. So imagine the mic is lowering down. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I want to welcome you to the stage, the lean, the mean, he drives a green machine, Mr. Airbnb. But we have Braden Ross coming up next, Mr. Airbnb. A little bit about Mr. Airbnb. He's one of the most well-known and largest personal brands in the world of Airbnb with over 150,000 followers on Instagram. Braden has marketed millions of dollars worth of properties in Canada, US, Mexico, Dominican Republic, and South Korea. Companies will often hire Braden to market their development projects because they are Airbnb friendly. Since 2017, Braden has helped thousands embark on their Airbnb journey, collectively generating over $100 million in bookings through his innovative teaching methods and expert guidance. Give it up for Mr. Airbnb.
I was not expecting that intro. It's funny, I've actually dropped college classes and university classes because I hate speaking in front of audiences. So this will be my first time without Braden. Braden usually actually comes up and speaks with me, but we launched a company last year and we did an event like this. So I appreciate you guys. It looks like everybody trying to gauge the room a little bit and figure out who's an Airbnb host, who's a real estate investor. I'm originally from Calgary, and it's quite interesting. When I started this whole thing, it was a little tiny, like most people, it's either a closet, it's a yurt, it's something, right? Just to get yourself going. And that was me. You know, I was 21 years old. I'll talk more about my story, but I don't want to make this about me. It's about you guys. I want you guys to think bigger, though. I know we're talking about like the intricacies of getting your first Airbnb or maybe trying to get to 10, right? My first big deal actually was in Edmonton, and it was a hotel, and I'll get to that. So thank you guys for having me. All right. So, yeah, expanding international Airbnb operations. Our most recent, and Carter, I might actually ask you to bring my water up here. I've been talking the whole ride up here as well with him, so he's helped me out. Our most recent project actually is in Korea. I'll show you the case study. We just launched in South Korea, partnered with a developer out there, a family that has 100 units out there, but we launched the first building. I'll get more into that and how you can do bigger deals by doing that. I put no money into this, sweat equity, of course, but you eventually want to build the teams to leverage, et cetera. So do you mind bringing the little bubbly up? It's on the ground right there. Or that's cool, thanks. All right. Oh. Okay. Cool. If you guys want something we do when we talk or whatever, we're just trying to get more engagement. We'll repost your stuff as well. We're going to give $100 away at the end of this. Well, when I'm done, we'll have Carter come up and choose that. All you got to do is just tag us, take a picture of me, put it on the Instagram. It's Braden Scriven, so that's him. And then I'm Mr. Airbnb. You don't have to say much. Just post it, gets it out there, and we'll give away the cash at the end of this little spiel. All right. Table of contents, introduction, who I am, achievements, milestones, early expansion growth, most recent project, which is Seoul. I've got another project. I'm partnering with some developers out in Princeton for 150 units, take over the whole building. So if you guys are interested in that, I'm not trying to sell you. I will talk about it more out there, or if you come to dinner after, we're also going to be doing a dinner at Earl's. So operations, marketing, and growth, overcoming the challenges, which is key. Any business is hard. You're crazy if you're an entrepreneur. You're actually a psycho. Most people think that it's easy. You drive the Lamborghini or the Ferraris and it's just not, right? Like, you're crazy for even being in this room, to be honest with you, because anybody who says, yeah, it's 100% automated, it's not, right? Like, you're going to have to spend the time. You're the one everybody looks up to. And so thank you for being here, and thank you for taking the risk. I just want to be forthcoming when I say that. It's been a journey. It's almost been 10 years for me. I started in 2017. So Braden actually was a student of mine. In 2019, I started teaching. Then he just took it a whole bunch further, created his own systems, and crushed it. So I taught him the very basics, and then he kept going. But I've taught thousands of people all over the world. I've worked with guys like, actually, if you know the name, Tai Lopez. He's an internet marketer. He asked me to teach Airbnb, flew me out to LA. Then in New York, taught it. You can look it up on YouTube. It's cool. But I wanted to keep going with it. And I've marketed properties starting in Calgary with my one little bedroom. And then I went to Edmonton to land my first big deal, which a friend owned a hotel near Rogers. I think you guys call it Rogers Arena as well. Rogers owns everything. And I thought, how can I not just own one property or just do arbitrage out of one property or even manage one property, but why don't I find a way to connect Airbnb to not Guesty, not IGMS or HostAway. These are property management systems. Those are the systems that Airbnb and VRBO connects, but how do I use the hotel software and put a hotel on Airbnb? So that's exactly what I did. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I figured it out. So maximizing returns with proven strategies. Collectively, between the students and I, since 2017, it's not 100 million, it's a few hundred million now. So yeah, Braden's obviously doing 5 million a year now himself. So he's just one small piece of those thousands and thousands of people out there. Yeah, there's me. I've done some stuff down in Austin, Texas on KBVO television, AirDNA. You can look me up. There's podcasts. Not going to boast too much. 100 million bookings, thousands of people, 100 million views. And when it says thousands of properties, I want to clarify this. When I landed a hotel, I wanted to go bigger than that. So I thought, okay, what's bigger than a hotel? And what is happening with Airbnb during COVID was it's getting banned everywhere. You look at South Beach, Miami, banned. You look at Lower Manhattan, banned. You look at pretty much Calgary at this point, it's getting harder. Kelowna, BC, it's banned unless it's your principal residence or you're on a leasehold. So I decided I wanted to land resorts. How did I do that? I decided I used my Instagram. I said, hey guys, who can speak Spanish? I found a guy who could speak Spanish. He was actually from Brazil. He's actually working for Barcelona FC. And during that time, I thought, why don't we just try to throw a Hail Mary? Let's just try to land a huge brand with billions of dollars in real estate, which should be these resorts. So 5-star, 5-diamond, luxury, all-inclusive properties. I made some mistakes, and I'll get to those. And there's me. If you want to tag me, cool. If you don't, that's fine too. Here are some of the areas. St. Bart's, we had 220 villas there at once. Cancun, Cabo, Puerto Vallarta. And it all started with my one little Airbnb in Calgary. I bought that first condo, 2017. I think it was around January, and I bought it for $285,000. Not much money. I saved up enough that summer. I was in university, at the University of Lethbridge, Calgary campus. Decided I'm done listening to somebody I wouldn't trade places with, left accounting class, and went all in. Started cutting grass, started teaching people how to play hockey, because that's what I did growing up. I did anything to make money. And my little Kia Rio blew up that summer, and I had to work to get a car. So that's what I did. And I saved up enough cash to buy the condo. And then that July, after going through a breakup, unfortunately, my friend says, let's go to Vegas. Let's go to Mexico. So I'm just telling you the true story. How do I make money online? And it was Stampede, made $400 a night, $4,000, paid for my trip. Couldn't believe it. But I had no more money left. So literally, I had to get creative. Coming back, I thought, and this is long before people started going rental arbitrage or master leasing. I thought, sorry guys, I'm thirsty. How do I do this without owning property? So rewind, 2017, 2018, I had a little bit of money, not much, but I started calling people on Rent Faster. This is before it became an internet fad and everybody blew it up, right? So I think it was just me and a guy named Brian Page, who's a friend of mine. He runs a course called B&B Formula. Him and I are friends to this day. I started calling homeowners on Rent Faster. Just like Braden, I wouldn't tell them what I was going to do. I'd say, hey, I'm in your area. Your place is really nice. Can I meet you for coffee? I'd love to rent your place. Like, I just want to be your tenant, right? Oh, that might be me. Or is that you? Okay. So I did that. It's all good. You want to mute it? You're good. No stress. So I called person on Rent Faster. I met this lady, and I was a super host at the time. This is 2017. It was the Wild West. I made 55 grand that first year. It was like 99% booked, right? I just traveled, so it could be booked. I could travel. And I spent all that money, of course, so I could travel more. But from the profits that I was making, and I was cleaning my own toilets if I could, and I'd stay at my family's house for the first like 6 months. Then I realized it's not possible with 2 Airbnbs. So we sat down with this lady. I said, hey, I'm a super host. I own a condo in the building across the street from yours. It's next to the Calgary Saddle Dome. I knew it was a good area. There was really no bylaws. Like, there was no bylaws. You didn't need an STR license, none of that. But I just told her when I met with her, I said, hey, I want to rent this. And I'm a terrible negotiator at the time, but I said, I'll pay you a premium. It was $1,650, 1 bedroom, non-furnished, no underground parking. She said, you know what? I was a young entrepreneur at one time. I own this thing in cash. I don't have a mortgage on it. Let's do it. I didn't know you needed an addendum. You got to put it under your, business. So I just signed it in my personal name. There was no addendum. Yeah, I read the bylaws. I didn't care. I was just ready. I didn't even care if she cleaned it. I just got in. First place, listed it, was making double that. Well, as I'm traveling and starting to figure out you need cleaners, I get a call from her. She said, the building does not allow Airbnbs, and now they're fining you $200 every time they've caught you bringing somebody in. So we can keep this going under the table, is what she said, or I'll keep your deposit and you're done. So I was done. Then I had to get creative. I'm like, okay, I can buy, I can rent. So I figured out something there, and I didn't know what subleasing was or any of that. I just knew how to make money. That's what I wanted to do. Or I could do this thing where I didn't have to buy or rent. And I'm like, I wonder if I called homeowners and just showed them how much money I'm making, and I just started managing these things. And that's exactly what I did. I landed my first deal. I have a video of my very first student. I think I charged it was negative. Like, I didn't make money on it. It was like $50 to come meet with me at teach you. I guarantee your first Airbnb. But it was the point of showing that somebody else could do this thing. And that would have been 2017, 2018. Now, rental arbitrage became a thing, and when the lower barrier to entry, which is managing, of course, you're going to have market saturation, so you got to have a competitive offer. But if you have cash and you can buy, I always recommend still being able to buy. I'd rather actually own 5 than manage 50, and that's just my honest opinion. I don't want 50 bosses, unless it's one client with 50 units is what I went to. Okay, fast forward, COVID sucked. I thought, how do I do this different? And some of these strategies you could actually replicate. You can throw hotels on Airbnb. It is a thing. And I'll teach you some of the challenges and failures actually too, not just my successes that I had to learn. So where I currently operate as well, Dominican, Canada, Mexico, South Korea, to name a few. Here's a case study. So we launched South Korea in, it was like April 20th. How did I get this lead? How do you get leads like this? You got to go where people that have money are. I'm sorry to say it. You can't be in a room where people are just trying to scrape a few dollars. I know it sounds very narcissistic, but it is what it is. Like, I got this lead because of a purchase that I made years and years ago. When I was 24, I bought my first supercar. So Airbnb was going really well. And it's not like it happened overnight, but I realized that I didn't want to rent an office. I wanted to create a mobile office. I wanted to create a marketing tool, which I did. And at the same time, it allowed me to get networks of people that I wouldn't have, honestly, they would have never looked at me, right? So how this came was through that. The family is in South Korea. I was actually supposed to be there today with them. I've never been there, and I might go next year. So we're a super host, brand new account, started from zero. Every unit, almost every unit's a guest favorite, 5-star overall rating. And we just got our second super host renewal. So launched in Seoul in April of 2024. We're called 𝐁𝐫𝐚𝐲𝐸, which I haven't told anybody online. That's what it is. I just keep everything hush-hush now. I'm tired of showing the... I've seen both sides of the internet. Social media is cool, but I've done these masterminds too. And sometimes if you talk a little bit too early, people want to talk about you. It's a good and bad thing. You got to be careful. And a lot of what you see online is a farce, unfortunately. So what you'll notice about me is I'll just tell you the truth. But you're the first to hear what the company is called. And so I call it 𝐁𝐫𝐴. There's a company called Hostfully. And it took me like 8 hours or 9 hours, just sat there drinking coffee. And finally, there was one name, and it was 𝐁𝐫𝐴 with a .com. So that's what I was looking for. I also got Korea Stays because we want to launch another operation, .com. Okay, building 1. 10 units. There's a commercial laundromat on the bottom. We're in a good location, which is near the subways. Korea's growing like crazy. It went from like 8,000 units to 16,000 in the last year. So it's 1 and 2 bedrooms. I don't recommend them now, even though this is what this is, but we have 2 levels. So we can sleep as much as a 3 or 4 bedroom. And that's always key to maximizing your returns. 2 to 3x the rental income. Brand new building, has a laundromat, and each unit has 2 floors, and each unit has 2 full bathrooms. We also have a washer, which most units I didn't know in Korea don't have washers. So these are like 600 square foot units. These would rent for only, I don't know, their cost. I'll just tell you their cost. It's $700 a month is what their costs are because they developed the building. It cost them $2.1 million to build this building. And currently, after Airbnb takes their 15%, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but 15%, our cleaning fees are high. It takes about 20 to 25%. You should only be at about like 10%, but it's tough there. And I take 20%, and I'm looking to get equity out of this deal. That's what I'm aiming for. I want to own a piece of the whole thing. Okay, so the units are near main subways. I should have put the real pictures in here. So I just showed you what they kind of would look like. I will chat more with you guys after and actually show you what they look like if you do want to see what they look like. But yeah, Korea is really interesting. I don't speak Korean. When we connected to HostAway, obviously, when we connected to HostAway, all these messages, and they're going off right now because they're on a different time zone. But we have the team in Korea. The family's very involved. They help with the operations, maintenance. And after all my fees are said and done, they're still making $2,100 a month out of each unit, which is 3x. They were offered I think it was just $3 million, $3.1 million. So $1 million more 2 months after launching. And they decided to turn that down because they know it's worth more money now. So you can sell this as a business too. It's not just, hey, your home next door, this guy's home's worth 200 grand. Because we have a higher cash flow rate, higher cap rates, we make more money. They want to buy it as a business. So this is a screenshot I took from yesterday. This is up to date currently. As you can see, we started right here. We had 3 units. By July 10th, we launched 9 units. The reason why this fell in September is because we had a ton of cancellations. 25% of our bookings were canceling. So we lost a ton of revenue there, but I made an adjustment. I just went into the Airbnb settings. I added the non-refundable option, went into HostAway, and bumped up the price to add 10% on whatever price Labs is sending to HostAway. So we're not making anything less, but people think they're getting a better deal and choosing the non-refundable option. So you could see this month, leading into the month, we were at about 27 million Korean won, which is 27,000 so far, for 10 units. And I think we'll finish the month. So we're at, again, 15% on top of that is what we've actually made gross. So call it 31,000. I think we'll do about 35,000 after Airbnb takes their fees. So they're very happy. We're launching 3 more units in the next month or 2. And then they own like a hospital type of deal. And then with more units, so they're actually trying to get their tenants out of there. There's something called 𝐁𝐫𝐚𝐝𝐿, and I didn't know what the hell that meant. 𝐁𝐫𝐚𝐝𝐿 means like they will go to the bank and lend the person who wants to rent the property off you like 60% of the value. So if each unit's worth 300 grand, they'll go to the bank and ask for like 200,000. And that developer can then take that money and keep expanding their Airbnb, or not Airbnb, their real estate operations. It's much different, but it's becoming less popular. And right now, there's a massive opportunity in Korea. Well, again, 1 and 2 bedrooms, you're taking the most risk, I think, most places. Why? Because they replicate what a hotel room offers. Hotels will always have amenities, concierge, maintenance, can move your rooms, and always can operate in locations that Airbnb just can't because they're banned. And that's also why I started working with hotels back in 2019. Okay, amenities, pretty straightforward. You want to have things like a hot tub, movie theater room, things like that. This is Korea. We don't have much room, but we do put little projectors in there. We deck it out. And to save money, we have an interior designer that we work with. She does an e-design, and we get cheaper rates on all the furniture because we're in Korea. We send this to the guest. It's a little Gangnam style guy. They kept asking the same question. How far is this from this place or that place? And I have no idea. It's taken forever. So we designed this little thing, reduce the questions, and yeah, it just makes life easier. I would say we need our first VA now, just so you know. So you can go to a website called Online Jobs, so onlinejobs.ph, and type in virtual assistant. In fact, type in Airbnb virtual assistant, and you'll find ex-Airbnb workers that know the system probably better than all of us. And they will work for you. So usually you get a VA full-time for about $7 an hour to $10 an hour. So call it $1,000 to $1,500. They'll handle all of your communication while you're asleep. You want them to work during your check-in time, which is usually 4 o'clock, but have them adjust your pricing, and that's usually Price Labs too. But you want them to go in and just basically handle the things that are what we call low ROI tasks, low return on investment. You're doing the messaging, you're cleaning the toilets, you're changing the toilet paper. The person calls at 2 a.m. and they need a potato peeler. Like, why are you're never gonna get rich doing that. I'm sorry, it's just a waste of time. And I get it, you wanna own one property like I did, and I was gonna do everything and save the $50 and not pay a cleaner. You have zero leverage, okay? So that's key. I would say at 10 properties, even though Braden went to 30, which is crazy, 10 properties, you get your first VA, okay? And also, if you're trying to land co-host or management and arbitrage deals, there's Facebook groups all over the place. You can join those Facebook groups. You can also just go on Rent Faster. You hire a VA, and all they do is just send out messages all day long to set up appointments to owners that are interested in working with you. There you go. And if you want what we call top of funnel means you got to go on a few dates before you get married. Start a cleaning company. Management is not mandatory, but cleaning is, right? So they need a cleaning company. Build that engagement, and then start selling them on management, because they're not just going to hand over 20, 30%. They want to build that trust with you, and you want to look for furnished properties or existing hosts, because they're not going to go drop 30,000 on a maybe. They want to know that, hey, we can work with this person. Get in there. You can literally find cleaners on housekeeper.com, Kijiji, Turno, and you can what we call drop service. I only have so much time, so I got to get through this. So this is Princeton. I'm not here to sell you either, by the way. So this is the latest project. I was on the phone with developers the other day. How did I get this lead? Again, networking. It's taken me almost 10 years to get here. So this lead, what they're looking for is, it's Princeton. There's like, people don't even know what this is. So this is near like Grand Forks, not too far from Osoyoos. and 3,000 people or less. But the interesting part is there is a copper mine. Mitsubishi owns, I think, 25% of it, public company. Probably saying too much, but it's called Hudbay Minerals. Hope I'm not saying too much. There's about a $500 million investment that's being made or has been made going into there. They're hiring thousands of new employees. And actually the co-founder or the founder, I think it's Chip Wilson of Lululemon, is one of the big investors in this. Not this, but the mine. So who's gonna need a place to stay? There's nowhere to stay in Princeton. So these start in the high 200s for like a studio. And the nice part, it's a freehold. In BC, you have a lot of leasehold, which you don't own the land, but this is a freehold. So they want to have me be the preferred management company to take on the whole building. So I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this right away, because usually what I do is I'll go into a hotel and I'll figure out how to connect the software, for example, and they'll only open up the days that are not booked by Expedia, Booking.com, TripAdvisor, and it'll show on Airbnb. So every time someone's searching, Airbnb finds a customer, I just am the guy in the middle connecting the thing, and I make my 20% on, call it 50 rooms booked in a night. And that's how I figured out that first deal in Edmonton. This is a different play. But the nice part about this is I want to set this up to sell. I'd love to sell this for a couple $1,000,000, sell the management company separate. And the nice thing about this is that everything is in one building. So you got to go there, set up operations. This isn't done until 2027. So 300 to 500 homes. If you look up Princeton, there's like nowhere to rent. Even long-term rentals are good. So we'll get licensed to do long-term rentals, mid-term rentals, and short-term rentals. That's a play right now. So everybody does, hey, we're going to make you more money on Airbnb. We know in the winter, it's not great in Canada. It's not as good. So why wouldn't you get your property management license or work with somebody that has one, give them a percentage, and then in slow season, you put a midterm renter in there. That's your 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, up to 6 months, even 9 months. Long term would be your like 12 months or more. But that allows you to offset, especially from October to March. So 300 to 500 homes in Princeton. Foreign buyers, tax exempt, no short-term rental restrictions. So BC banned it recently. But under 10,000 people, mayor definitely doesn't want to opt into banning it there, so they're all in, and people can Airbnb there. Anyways, other cool stats, things, I can send you that after. Again, not trying to sell you, I'm just trying to show you what's possible and how you can do this at scale. Also, don't try to go land a hotel or like a deal like that if you've never ran one. You definitely got to start with one. It's not a good idea. So there's your price points, size of the units. My play is this. I said, why don't we go to Hudbay and getting them to buy an entire floor or half the building or a quarter of the building, or get the employees that are going to need a place to stay, right? Like, let's set up these leases already so the buyer or the investor, like whoever's going to buy, can come in and know that they already have a tenant lined up from a company that has hundreds of millions of dollars. So we're trying to work that out right now, but HR isn't being friendly, I guess. So we'll see what happens. Okay. Pre-sale, building equity, delayed mortgage payments, selection, time to save, warranty, the whole 9 yards. So this is actually what it looks like. It'll look like inside. I just did a filming over there. So it looks like that. These two are on Google, so those aren't actually what they look like. Deposit structure, 5% within 7 days of writing, 5% within 6 months of writing. And yeah, I can give you more information. Okay, so I'm actually gonna do a strategy call. I'm not gonna have somebody do it. And no, I'm not gonna sell you anything on this call either. I'll actually help you out. So if you feel like it, you can scan the QR code. I'll do it for 10 people. Normally I do 15 minutes and I'll have like a team member do it, but I'll actually sit on the call with you. We'll jump on a Zoom and I'll show you way more. This was nothing. I know I only have 30 minutes, but we can dive in a lot more. Just tell me what you're looking for and I'll guide you with what I would do in that situation, whether you're looking to buy, manage, rent. So the first 10 people that want to book in, I'm not gonna sell you. I'm here to help you. So I've got a lot of things going on right now, and I appreciate you bringing me out, Bryce. So he called me up. He said, hey, can you come out for this thing? I flew in from Vancouver area, and here I am today. I'm also Albertan, so I much appreciate everybody listening to me, and I hope I helped, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, I think we're going to Earl's after, so happy to connect more. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Lots and lots of information. I'm sure that everyone's heads are ready to almost explode. But we wanted to open it up if there's any questions in the room. Bryce has the microphone. He's also been working on his cardio, so he can move back and forth across this room. Bryce, let's see you run. Perfect. Any questions? If you have a question, just throw up your hand and we will ask our panel of experts, our Airbnb legends, as we're calling them. And if there is no questions, that is also all right. Oh, yes, we got a question right over here. I'll run. I'm faster than Bryce anyways.
Thanks. Hello. I just wanted to know, and I wanted to make sure that I heard that correctly. So there is no governing body right now for property managers when it comes to Airbnbs. I know there is when it comes to rentals or condos. So just wondering that if that doesn't apply to Airbnbs right now or not yet.
RECA has said that they don't cover Airbnbs. They said they don't want anything to do with it. The only legal gray area is if you're collecting deposits. And the remittance part, that one hasn't been sorted out. So realtors would know better, but essentially if you're a property manager, you're collecting rental income from the tenant and then you're remitting it to the property owner. Airbnb is the collector of the money, not you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We got another question over here. Not a problem. You didn't even need a mic. Everyone could hear you. Perfect. Next question. And we'll get her to repeat it because she doesn't need the mic. Any other questions? Yes, Randy. Bryce will email a copy of the slides.
Yeah, so if you signed up at the front door and gave your correct email address and didn't lie with your email address, you will get a copy of it.
The key was the correct email address. So if you need to change that, let us know. We can modify that for you. Yes.
Thank you. And what were some of your biggest challenges when you guys were like scaling up your operations for like just one to now multiple units and like that crazy tech stack and multiple people?
Our biggest challenge was the faster we grew, the more we grew, the more our quality was just shut down. Like I can't control absolutely everything. So when there's things going off the rate, when we're growing too fast, and to be fair, like our team, like I can't expect them to keep up. They were working such long hours, and I was just like throwing listing after listing after listing at them. They're doing their best just to keep up. So the more we grew and the faster we grew, the more our reviews went down. So we had to put a halt on that. We had to pump the brakes. So that was actually why we're like, okay, how do we, kind of like McDonald's or Walmart, like you're huge, but you can't control your quality. The bigger you are, the harder it is to control. And I don't really like doing business like that. So we're like, okay, how do we make more money with less operational overhead? And that was by actually owning the units. So now it's like, okay, we can let's not add more than 100 units, although now we are. But let's not add over 100 units. Let's just make more money owning the 100 units. So that was definitely by far the biggest struggle.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I have time for one more question. Yes. You don't need the mic. I forgot.
Sorry. Could you sum up your question?
I'm
think, sorry.
Like, when did you... Oh, God.
Yeah, okay, for sure. I'll let you answer this too, but yeah, there was times where like and this just isn't Airbnb. This is all businesses. This is just like me learning how to be a manager. I was really not a very good manager at all at first. I was not allowing my people to be leaders, probably. That was like a big hurdle. And I had to learn, even if it potentially, even if the result wasn't as good as I would do if I had done it myself, I can't do everything myself, and I have to just be able to trust my team. So now I have a rule, it's like 80%. As long as their answer is 80% as good as what my answer would be, then I'll run with it, because I will do more damage by just shutting them down and telling them what to do. For sure. That was a big hurdle, was just learning how to be a manager. And then by doing that, I learned how to create leaders. Like it's one thing, I could just like build all these systems and scripts and standard operating procedures and give them to people to be monkeys, but then it's going to take so much more effort than had I just built people up, teach them to be leaders, and then they can be independent and I can just step away.
Nice. Okay. And I'm going to say something. I met Braden in 2019. I remember him on my Zoom calls. I'd have like 30 people in a room, and he was one of the faces. And it's funny, we ran into each other on flights, nonstop, same flights, missing flights. That something's going on here, man. Now we've become pretty close, and it's crazy to see how far he actually scaled Nomadics. Just because of the individual management point, we chose two different paths, right? Like I went owning and then rental arbitrage, and that failed obviously because I got kicked out. And I realized that everybody, you can do this so many different ways, the glamping side and all that, right? So you have to choose how much risk you want to take. Would I go into rental arbitrage, for example? And I'm not trying to deflect your question, I'll get into it. Would I go into rental arbitrage in Canada? Probably not, starting in October. The rental rates are crazy out here. I'd go for 4 or 5 bedroom houses, try to get like hot tub, pool. I mean, it's pretty straightforward stuff. But the money is really down in the United States and even some of these exotic countries. I choose vacation rental destinations because when an owner or somebody, like anyone in here that's like, hey, I don't want to buy another place in Canada. I don't want to pay 50 to 66% capital gains. Well, that's crazy. My American friends laugh at me. They go, we 1031 exchange our properties out to another one. We don't pay any capital gains. Buy 10, 20, 30, $40 million properties. Here, it's crazy. So the margins are getting slimmer. You really have to be unique. And the glamping thing was really cool, actually, that Carlos was talking about. So my biggest hurdle, I think the biggest hurdle for all of us is a mindset. It's me. It always has been, and it still is, actually. My thing is delegation. I should be much better at this point delegating, but I'm not yet. And that was a conversation I had with Carter. And we will pick a winner that just reminded me for you guys that posted. My biggest obstacles and failures have always come from my inner, like my head. It's weird. When I thought, okay, let's scale from hotel to resort, we landed the deals. Everything's on Mexican time, so everything takes a year or 2 years. It's really tough. Pissed me right off. And you're playing a whole different ball game where they don't really want to carve out that 20%, 15% for you, right? And when COVID happened, I realized, okay, maybe Airbnb isn't a thing. I'm literally called Mr. Airbnb. I don't know if I'm gonna have a job. My job is literally me. Like, I don't know what to do. And so there was a time during COVID where I felt really anxious and really down mentally because I didn't really know if this was going to be a thing anymore. And I put all my eggs in one basket. Luckily, I stuck through it. Guys like him came out of COVID even better. But with the resorts, the hotels, I realized I didn't really want the breadcrumbs. I didn't want just a piece of it and on everyone else's time. That's why I work really just with developers, and I want the whole schedule. I want to own a piece of equity, and ownership is key. So my biggest pitfall has always been me. And it kind of still is to this day, where I believe I could be a lot more, and I still am, and I'm growing, but I'm not even close. I feel like I'm just starting, but I got to get better at delegating, and that's why I was cleaning my own places, like the first 1, 2, 3 units. Like I shouldn't have been doing that. I learned the hard way. Now I learn from people that are 10, 20, 30 years ahead of me, and I'm just starting. So my pitfall is me, to be honest. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, you three, for answering those questions and sharing tonight. Let's give it a round of applause to our presenters. Thank you very much. You're good to go. We wanted to thank everyone for coming tonight. I know that it's a Monday night. You're probably not thinking, I want to go listen to investments, but you're all here. And so I wanted to make sure that you continue investing in yourself. There's tons of wisdom in this room for individuals that are doing this and other different strategies. And so I'd recommend spend some time tonight, meet a couple people, get to know one another, see how you might be able to work with each other or just become great friends. And then, like Braden said, if anyone would like to go to Earl's afterwards, we're going to go there for a little bit as well. Garth is standing in the back. Garth, can you give the crowd a nice wave? If anyone would like to see the rest of this building, I know lots of people drive past and are like, what is that Coliseum over there? Garth is willing to give a little tour as well as Randy. So if anyone would like to connect and get a tour of the building, you're more than welcome to do so. Bryce, any final thoughts?
We're going to do the giveaway for the $100. So we have the winner.
Yeah.
I'll have him choose, so I'm not biased. So there's 16 people that tagged. There's 16 people that tagged, and he's just going to go through, choose 2 people. Appreciate you guys tagging as well. We'll give the cash. So who's number 1?
This one right here.
Okay, who's that?
Rose Country Cowgirl.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. We got another one.
That's awesome.
Yep. So you can go back, forth, whatever you want to do.
Rose Country Cowgirl. You were cheating. You posted a lot. That's smart.
She's like every single one. That's pretty smart.
Darcy Rose.
Thank you.
I believe there's still drinks out there, so stay around for a little bit. We have the building till 8, and then we're going to head to Earl's afterwards. So hope to see you there. We're going to be over in either the lounge or the patio, depending on the temperature. Hopefully they have the lights on. Thank you guys for coming.